We're not through yet.
7 days a week.
You'll be amazed at what my Auric XL, even at 8.5 pounds, picked up.
Call us now.
Call us now. Call now, and I'll also send you my Auric compact vacuum absolutely free.
Have your credit card ready.
Hey, hello. Hey, can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me? Hello? Hey.
Welcome to Emerging Tech Mastery, a show that demystifies cutting-edge technology like cryptocurrency, the blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, virtual reality, the maker movement, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, edge, and even fog computing. Strap in as we ride into the fourth industrial revolution. Emerging Tech Mastery provides actionable knowledge, regardless of skill level, from experts in the trenches. We piece together this intel in easy-to-consume media formats, processes, and procedures. See you in the future.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on another episode of Emerging Tech Mastery. I'm here with Mike Wilson, the founder of Vegas Crypto Group. Mike, thanks for jumping on.
I am so excited to be on your podcast, Aaron. Thank you so much for making time for me.
Tell us about yourself, how you first got into the tech space.
So growing up in the 80s, I grew up with my Commodore 64, so it was all command line interface and, just a real talk about emerging tech. I mean, that was it. Or even 386 computers were coming out. And then moved into 386, started building computers. I got into tech support. I've been in tech support for 13 years, from the early 90s, mid 90s, all the way through. Speaking of the mid 90s, I'm a big privacy advocate. So PGP was really important to me and important to support it. And so I went to the first maybe 10 DEFCons, and that was where I had the chance to meet Hal Finney. He was there supporting Phil Zimmerman, who had just brought him on as a PGP coder. And so I've always been a big privacy advocate, big technology advocate, and really trying to bring humanity, make sure we don't lose our humanity through our technology, and that we continue to support each other as technology advances.
You came out swinging with bringing up first off, Hal Finney, PGP, some seminal developments in our sort of evolution. That really should be, I say this every episode, there should be its own episode, but that really should be PGP and that whole vibe. So we got to zoom in there. So tell me a little bit about what was the vibe like at that time? I mean, that's, I've talked to some other people and they said it was much quieter. What was your recollection of the scene, community, and sort of just overall vibe?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because that particular vibe has almost been unmatched to this day. There's a sense of community there because everybody is on the same page. We all kind of have this understanding that privacy is important. And the way I like to put it is privacy is an important part of freedom, and freedom is an important part of progress and innovation. And so when you limit privacy, you limit freedom and you limit progress. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that aspect of privacy in terms of freedom. And so, yeah, the vibe was incredible. Everybody's kind of on the same page. We're all looking to learn from each other and grow with each other. And so we had, back in the day, we had our black boxes and our blue boxes and red boxes. We'd connect into the telephone lines and just have a great time hacking and freaking and doing all the Cipherpunk stuff that you do. One of the things we had, the convention was at the Tropicana, and they hated it because people would hack into the power outlet to run LAN games, and this was like almost revolutionary at the time. It blew my mind, and so the hotels were a little suspicious about hosting DEFCON. They had to move around a few times. They were at the Sahara, and then the Tropicana, then the Riviera, and all these different casinos. And I thought they're going to run out of casinos, and nobody's going to want DEFCON anymore. But boy, was I wrong, because DEFCON has fully expanded. Now, one of the other vibes, or one of the other places that you get that vibe from, is Monerotopia. So we attended Monerotopia last year in Miami. Absolutely incredible. It was that same community vibe where we all kind of understood that we're here for the same purpose. Ultimately, it's to help people. It's to better your life through technology. And of course, there's a little bit of troublemaking here and there, but mostly it's just all fun. We just have fun.
So, so DEFCON, when was that you specifically saw Hal Finney and Phil Zimmerman?
Yeah, so Phil came out to talk at the 1995 DEFCon. I think it was the third DEFCon. I want to say it was the third one, and there's not too many people out here that get paid to support privacy, right? So it's different if you're pushing certain corporate technologies or different things like that. There's money involved. This was really an altruistic movement. It was a movement that kind of comes from the heart, and I love to relate that to Bitcoin as well, because when you look at the origins of Bitcoin, there was no CEO of Bitcoin saying, "Hey, write this code, do this, do that, do that." It was just a community of people, like-minded people who understood how important fairness is, and altruistically gave their time, their energy, and their effort, and I'm sure their money too, to help build what we have today and what we call crypto. And I never want anybody to forget how important that is. That people just volunteered and made it happen. And now I cannot believe how big the industry is, and it's good to see that people are becoming more involved in privacy. It's exciting.
Back in that time you're mentioning, it does seem like, there wasn't the monetary sort of, crypto, right? Like everyone's thinking, oh, I'll make money on it. But back then, if I understand right, PGP was a serious endeavor. And if the NSA had their way, the US government, they would have not allowed us to have it. So I always love to point that out because, and, there's this Crypto Wars 1 and 2 that I've heard the guy who invented, one of the guys who invented public private key cryptography was saying that it was a huge battle and NSA has purposely made stuff weak. So I guess the point of me bringing that up is like, this was like a real time of real building. And it wasn't like, I mean, I think you said it like the community was maybe strong because it wasn't such a guarantee that we even could have this to begin with, meaning strong encryption. PGP, pretty good encryption. That was a really cool thing you got to witness there.
At the time, Phil Zimmerman was under threat of prosecution from the government for using munitions. So they claimed anything over 40-bit encryption was a munition, like a gun or whatever, missile, and they were going to prosecute him that way. And obviously, it's just words, right? So what he did was he printed it into a book, and it became free speech. And the government backed off, and everybody kind of backed off. But there was a very tenuous time there where they did not want encryption getting out, and so we had to forge through a lot of hardship. And just to speaking to you today, I just want to remind everyone that's listening that we are standing on the shoulders of giants here. These are people that risk their lives. They put their time and effort and energy and blood and sweat and tears into this for the good of humanity, really. Maybe they made a couple bucks. Mostly, usually you don't make money, but you absolutely make good friends and good connections, and you're helping people. So that for me was fulfilling enough.
Yeah, and I think this is a good commentary on just sort of that OG open source vibe and community. Like it wasn't all about, everyone's getting paid. Like crypto, I think has, as you said, it's cool to see the growth, but also perhaps at times the values get a little diluted. So, hey, that's a great segue into where can you find those values? You mentioned Moneratopia. Well, guess what I would say? Community. So you are a community builder, and that's a big thing you've really just man, run with doesn't even sum it up. You're like zooming like the Flash at this point. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what is community building and led you to begin organizing community yourself?
Yeah, great question there, and there's a lot to expand on there. But number one, if anyone's listening out there, I wanted to encourage you to go ahead and if you're considering starting a community or joining a community, do that. For me, I just needed a little bit of encouragement to start this off and to really hold space for people. At the end of the day, I don't see myself as being any kind of real special guy here. I didn't do that much. What I did was I held space. I said, okay, you know what? I'm here. We're going to plant the flag. Anybody who else wants to come join us, come under the umbrella, whatever it is, and hang out. And it's really bloomed because I care about people. I think when you're starting a community, you don't need to pay so much attention to the numbers. Those numbers don't mean as much as you may think. As long as you actually care about the community, it will grow. And shoot, any more than two is a meetup, right? So I was happy, but of course our meetups have grown. We've got over 1,500 members in our multiple different groups, and I think it grows because we show that we care, that each individual is important to us that comes to our meetups and comes to our events, that you're not just going to be lost in it as a number. That's not how we're building our community. And any good community that's out there really cares about its members. And so since 2019, we've been having our meetups more regularly here in Vegas. We've done one in Miami. I know you've been working with some things in LA, and it's so great to bring people together and just kind of hold space and see kind of what comes of it. We've had some great speakers, Bobby Lee from Ballet Wallet, and we've had an amazing open mic night not too long ago. They saw about maybe 8 or 9 different speakers from our community. We want to provide that platform for people. And at the end of the day, I can't say it enough. We're building a knowledgeable and friendly community, and I think it all starts with that. It all starts with that kind of mission, that vision statement of let's be knowledgeable, let's be friendly, let's help each other out, and see what we can do to make the industry better as a whole. So that's really the impetus of building community. And then of course, I used to have a BBS. I used to run a bulletin board system, so you used to have to dial in before the internet, and ran a community there. And so the online community is, it's not new to me. But when the internet came out, I said, oh boy, it's just like one huge BBS. And it really has evolved to that and to a bunch of other communities. So we have our online community as well, and that it helps extend the conversation from the in-person meetup to the online stuff. And we're currently building out a great plot in the metaverse, HyperFi metaverse, where all of our community members can meet on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis. And of course, we have other ways of communicating with our community here and continue to grow it. So that's kind of my thought process behind it.
I feel like we're in a real time machine here. We're going into like the 90s, and now you already jumped into the metaverse. Usually we try to like go at least 15 minutes before saying metaverse, but that's all right. I love it. It's absolutely awesome. Let me circle back before I go into
Sure.
sort of types of community and stuff. You mentioned experiencing, and I've certainly experienced. Why do we need community?
Yeah, I mean, that's a powerful question. And I think it's unique for everyone. At the end of the day, a community fills so many roles. Not only can they be supportive, but a community, it's kind of like many hands make light work, So I may not know very much about smart contracts, but we may have 4 or 5 people in the community that do. I may not know so much about doing AI graphics, right? But we have people who are working with stable diffusion. There's so many things that go hand in hand that we can all kind of take our skills, whatever skill you have, apply that and stay in your lane and do that because you're good at it. And the value there is huge. And so, we need community for that reason alone, but there's so many other reasons, and of course we have our charity events typically towards November and December. And you can individually help people, but when you bring people together for a common cause, it really seems to explode and result in a lot of great things. And so that's a big part. Of course, if whatever you're looking for, usually the community's there. As long as it's knowledgeable and friendly, we're here for you.
I love that. There's this concept of stone soup where like it's like a village setting, and like they put a pot of water on the fire, someone puts a stone in it, and then everyone puts in like some vegetables, some carrots, some, like, and then all of a sudden it's like a full-on bubbling stew. So that's the analogy I thought of when you were talking, like light hands. It's like everyone contributes a little bit, and wow, we have a lot as a community. And I would say it the community function for me, like when I first got into Bitcoin at the time, 2013, it was just Bitcoin, right? And it was kind of what you were alluding to, I think, at the DEFCon conference, where we're in the corner of a Panera for like 3 freaking hours, maybe 4, probably more.
Hmm.
And it was so much fun. And I do feel like it was the support structure. So I would add on to that, like, it's a place to go like all the time. Yeah, maybe that's not like everyone's gathering 24/7, 365, but like that connection's always there, is I think kind of how I'm processing what you're saying.
Yeah, and so in terms of building communities, it's important to be consistent. I mean, it's easy to throw a meetup here and there, but when you're consistent, the community really responds, and you show that you're going to be there, and you're here for the long haul, and we're here to support each other no matter what. And yeah, there's a lot of power in community.
Yeah, and I think that's what adds a lot of strength to the community. Well, you've been to a lot of events. I've been to a lot of events. We met at a conference, I believe, in Vegas. It was, if not mistaken, it was Crypto BlockCon. We've both been to tons of events. I know you're always telling us about cool stuff you've been to, but yeah, why don't you give us a little, I guess, anything, big, small, in between, of like events, community you've attended, and maybe what you thought of it, and maybe even how you've sort of aimed to, copy or not what you've seen out there.
So, there's a lot of great organizations out there, and a lot of great projects. So good people, good projects. And I'm attracted to that, right? So when I meet a person or I learn about a project and meet the team, you can kind of get a good feel for what the purpose is and where they're going and what they're planning on doing. In all the years, all the conferences I'd been to, my first crypto conference was called a Day for Crypto in Denver, and that was I think 2017. And I got a chance to meet Eric Voorhees and a number of just amazing people. And we're all there for a common cause. It was still kind of early in 2017, so it wasn't the bull market hadn't totally taken over, but it was a great community, right? So people of developers, and then throughout the years, going to so many different conferences here in Vegas, in Miami, Puerto Rico, Los Angeles, just kind of all over the place. I was looking to get my feet on the ground in crypto and kind of figure out where I fit in. And it just kind of, I don't know why it took so long, but it kind of clicked. Like, well, I bring people together. Let's do this. This is one of the things we do, and it's something where we can provide a platform for people to, well, good projects to talk about their, what they're doing, and shed some light to so many of these projects, because a lot of these projects can be lost in the weeds. There's so much out there, and so that was the impetus of starting the Crypto Mindset Reset. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but that's one of our virtual summits, and I like to refer to it as our crown jewel. We do it quarterly. We had our last virtual summit in December. Absolutely amazing. Some great speakers, great sponsors, and great information. And it's really all about bettering your life through crypto. Any project that's has that same kind of objective, good people, good projects, let's do it. We bring them on board. And one of those projects is Monerotopia. I think I mentioned it earlier. So you have Monerotopia is a great community, one of the great projects that's out there supporting Monero. Of course, there's no CEO or head of the Monero, whatever it is. There's just, it's a decentralized group that cares about privacy, and they do a lot of great work and bring on a lot of great people. Their next Monerotopia summit is in Mexico City. Pretty excited about that, beginning of May. And our next virtual summit is happening April 18th and 19th. That's cryptomindsetreset.com, and that's a great place to learn about other great projects that are out there.
Yeah, no, great segue there. And I'm glad you're starting to touch on the stuff you're building, because that really does deserve a lot more discussion. But yeah, tell us a little bit about maybe some of the projects you've run across. Certainly Monerotopia is like what you said, sounds like sort of the modern equivalent of, maybe not exactly how it was, but DEFCon, right? Sort of that original cypherpunk energy. It's a little bit more fragmented, it seems, these days. I'd actually say, well, embrace the smaller events if they are smaller. If it's like there's even a Monero group, I think, pretty much all over the place, like meetups. But I had gone to one. It felt very chill. It felt very kind of that original vibe when I first got into it. So yeah, tell us a little bit about some projects just off the top of your head. I know there's so many. We'll backfill, any that we didn't mention. No one's left out that wasn't mentioned. But yeah, tell us a
Right.
little bit about just off the top of your head.
I couldn't be happier that you're asking. And boy, for the listeners out there, feel free to open a notepad or break out a pen, because there's going to be worth looking into all of this.
It's a long
It
list.
is. It's a little bit of a list, but of course, Edge Wallet is one that I always point to as a real beacon of light in the industry. They're doing things right. They're doing things in a way that isn't intrusive on your privacy. Everything functions smoothly. The UI is beautiful, and the reason why I bring them up first is because Paul Pui and his whole team there at Edge Wallet. They have some amazing events there in San Diego at the Edge Wallet headquarters, and I'm always encouraging people to go there, because you can always learn something from these great meetups that they have in San Diego. And then in terms of building community, our friends at Float.app, I always like mentioning them, because they have a very similar principles and values as we have here in terms of protecting your privacy and bringing a freedom-oriented, freedom-minded group together. So Float is a social media network. It's Web3. Well, they're transitioning to Web3, as everyone seems to be. And so Float.app, if you're out there listening, definitely check out Float.app. If you don't have an account there, sign up. I highly recommend it. Some of the other participants we had in our previous virtual summit were amazing. And so I'll briefly touch on Komodo as one of the better decentralized exchanges out there that's doing things right in terms of technology. So they're taking their time. They're making sure that you're safe when you transact. They're protecting you from bridges, and mostly using atomic swaps and technology is going to be a little bit safer moving forward. Our good friend Blockchain Wayne at FIO, they're integrated with Edge Wallet. It's like a Web3 naming service. So instead of having your wallet address and some long number and letter deal, just use a word. And FIO is able to work with any blockchain. So they're blockchain agnostic, and works out really well as a name service. So FIO, check out FIO. And one last thing, project I wanted to talk about, it's really important, which is Cordal. The reason why I like Cordal is because they're building a blockchain from the layer 0 up, so from the hardware layer up, which is great because there are questions about, these Chinese chip manufacturers and this and that when it comes down to it. And the biggest question for me is, what do we do if the internet goes down, or what do we do if we want our own private communication network and we don't want to use the internet? Well, Cordal's doing that. They're providing a mesh network for smaller communities, and it functions just like the internet. They're providing Q chat is one of their new features, so they have a great way to communicate privately, and they have a great community, great people, and they're working, without really getting paid. They're out here doing great work and really great work, just like Bitcoin, kind of started. You need people who care about what they're doing, and you can see that they care, and it really makes a difference. So there's a couple of the ones I like to talk about.
That's a great cross section there of it covers a lot of good ground. You got Monero with the sort of modern private tech sort of crypto, and obviously Float, social media, Komodo, Dex, and then you said Cordal for sure. Like hardware, I've always felt like hardware was a huge bottleneck because it's like, oh well, who made the hardware? Oh, so Broadcom or Intel, and it's just like, oh geez. So I love Cordal in particular. That's someone I definitely want to get on the show. And that dude, he was on at your virtual summit, and we've done some coverage of your summits here, and we'll continue to. So yeah, very cool stuff. I love these projects you're bringing together. It's really cool. Just it's actually like, this is where the innovation's happening. That's kind of been my read, is like, you find out about stuff that like you can't just Google, right? Which is kind of exciting, that you can really have some self-discovery here, and you're helping to curate, and I'm sort of adding on to that to make it that much easier for people to find these people. So stoked that you're teeing them up, and I'm stoked to cover them. So yeah, man, how about you jump in and tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you're working on?
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate that. There is a lot going on, and it's only because we have great people around us that are helping Vegas Crypto Group, some great team members that have contributed, and we're trying to move forward in a way that's conducive to building a great community. Good people. And so some of the things we're working on now, we have our metaverse plot. Is it over 15 minutes? Yeah, okay, good. We have our metaverse plot, and I'm excited actually in particular about this. We have our Hyperfi metaverse plot, which will be a 24-hour a day, 7 days a week metaverse plot. We're building a blockchain center in the metaverse, which is kind of exciting. We've actually been officially commissioned by Nick Spanos to open a Vegas blockchain center here in Vegas, and so we're excited about that. In the coming months, we'll have more news on that, and I'll circle back to the metaverse in a minute. But we also are working with Crypto Mondays. It's an internationally known brand, and so if you're listening, go to meetup.com, type in Crypto Mondays. You'll find a Crypto Mondays in your area. They have Crypto Mondays in Tel Aviv and Ghana and Paris, and I mean, I just all over the world. It's absolutely incredible, and so we're honored to be working with Lou in having a Crypto Mondays here in Vegas. We have our next meetup coming here pretty soon, but anytime you're in Vegas, you want to come out and see us, go to vegascryptogroup.com, and we'll have all our events listed there. And then kind of shifting back to the metaverse, we're also building in the Uplift metaverse. And if you're not familiar with the Uplift metaverse, this is actually uplift.world, the uplift.world, and it's a metaverse built on positivity and gratitude. And that really drew me in because when you look at Facebook and the rest of them, they're not quite interested in positivity and gratitude. They really just want whatever they want, but it's not that. And when you go there, there's a gratitude board there where you can leave a message of gratitude. You can find them on YouTube where they'll bring the community together and read off the gratitude statements, and it's incredible. So it's built on Minecraft, by the way, so it's very familiar with most people. I think there's like 1 billion Minecraft players, and there's a lot of neat little features in there. So I encourage everyone to check out the Uplift World, uplift.world. That's another metaverse that we're building in. And then as far as some of the other projects, we're doing one called Security Mindset Reset, and so it's kind of a play off of Crypto Mindset Reset, where we're talking about security. So what we're doing is we're bringing the absolute best hackers and people in the infosec industry, people who have hacked hardware wallets, people who have hacked blockchains, and we're bringing these people in, and they're going to speak, they're going to talk to you about ways to keep yourself safe and secure. Really, before you even start minting your first NFT, you need to know about security. I think that should be a prerequisite. So it's really important. So we're kind of shifting from, obviously, Crypto Mindset Reset is continuing, cryptomindsetreset.com. We're going to shift also, we're going to be broadcasting some of that Security Mindset Reset. And to be honest with you, on the road roadmap, the next thing is economic reset, economic mindset reset, because kind of finding that balance between, oh, the dollar maybe it's not stable and the economy might do different things, and how are we going to deal with this? Well, we're here to help. We're here to bring the community together, find solutions that work for everyone, and so, but that's on the roadmap. We're heavily focused on crypto mindset reset and security mindset reset. So those are just a few of the things we got our hands in that we're doing. We're excited about.
Dude, that's some powerful stuff going on there. So basically, just in summation, you're building on multiple realms. Clearly, we've got the
Yeah.
metaverse, we've got in real life, the block. So Nick Spanos, just in case people aren't aware, was involved in the New York Blockchain Center, which is like one of the OG, creating a bit of a spectacle, and he had like a trading, like literally almost like a super nano Wall Street of crypto and Bitcoin at the time in particular. So that is an insane OG to get on your side and is you collaborating with directly. And Vegas is the perfect damn place for that because it's just like international. There's already sort of cash going on with, the gambling and everything. And so it's really cool. It just fits. Like, I feel like, not to mention the dang history, right? Should I open that rabbit hole right now of how Vegas was invented by the Rat Pack?
That's
And it
right.
was built on cash being put in a certain place. And we won't talk about where it came from. But, that is a very interesting twist on a very, frankly, known history of Las Vegas.
It really is. And Vegas is, I've been calling Vegas the nexus of San Diego and San Francisco. And it really is. Everybody from those regions come here frequently. And of course, a huge international market. So we have over 42 million visitors that come to Vegas every year. And we're excited to expose them to crypto. We're actually also working with an NFT art studio that's getting ready to open in the Arts District. And there's a lot of really interesting things happening in the Arts District here in Vegas. Think I think we kind of have a model to build off of what we've seen in Wynwood and Miami. We're going to do that. I'd like to say we're going to do it, maybe a little bit differently, but very similar in the sense that it's very important to me to continue the art aspect of what you kind of where we're going with this, because art helps bring the humanity together with the technology. We cannot lose our humanity through this technology. So we're going to continue to work with the Arts District, and hopefully down the road, that's where our blockchain center offices will go, and we'll continue to build up the Arts District here in Vegas.
I'm glad you brought up the art side. I hadn't touched on that as far as my questions, but I think you're right. I think it is a little bit of a glue that holds everything socially together. I've always felt like, and that's another reason I'm really excited about the immersive space. Like I was telling you, that terminology in particular, because it's like, it's all art, it's all design, it's all for you, it's for me, for viewers, users. So I think, like you say about caring about the community, and my friend who I interviewed, Eric, we've already done like 3 shows and we're going to keep doing more. He's super enthusiastic, full of stories, full of passion. So I'm getting a real vibe from like immersive tech, but I'm glad you brought up art, because guess what? That's everybody. Sometimes it gets a little, what's the word? It's like the same people, right? Like at certain types of events and certain subject matter. So to be able to kind of make it something for everybody, I think is great. And I think everything you're talking about there is sounding really good. And I have heard random, like, Twitter spaces and stuff where people are super enthusiastic. They may not know every little detail, but they're building stuff, they're doing stuff. So I think the art is something definitely to keep an eye on.
Absolutely, and such a critical component of what we're doing. We kind of get stuck in the technology, then we end up looking like machines ourselves, and we're not. We'll never be a machine. We're not a computer. We're not. so so yeah. So that's kind of a really really important a passion of mine, as well as just kind of like I said before, just helping charities in the local area and other charities. We're big supporters of Free Ross. Big supporters of Hal Finney's wife, who's helping to cure ALS, something that Hal Finney suffered from, and so charity's another big kind of aspect of that, and art plays a role in that as well. So super excited about the things we're doing here.
So this is a good segue into who and what subject matter and like others are you trying to connect with, because you've got all these feelers and it seems to me like you could really work with all types of people. So yeah, why don't you lay down a little bit on who you're looking to work with, who do you like working with, and I know you already kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe just in case anyone wants to get in touch and be a part of this, I'd love to open that up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another great question. By the way, really enjoying your podcast. Thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it, bro. You're doing great work here, and I hope
Thank you,
I know
sir.
your
Just trying to keep everyone comfy,
I know your listeners feel the same way. I know your listeners feel the same way. And thank you everyone that's listening. Really, really appreciate it. Some of the partnerships that we're working on are pretty exciting as well. So we're working with Quest Chains, which is an incredible kind of sort of like a learn to earn in a sense. You go on a little bit of a quest, you get to learn a little bit about different things. We're also doing something similar with Infinity Key. Infinity Keys is kind of similar to Quest Chains, where people get rewarded for going through the different quests and things. And we're excited to do that and help people learn more about what we're doing and about some great projects there. Let me see. Beyond that, we're also looking to work with some of the bigger players in the game, as you can imagine, Bitcoin Magazine being one of them. So we've been kind of in talks with them and hoping to work with them a little bit closer. I do have a real soft spot in my heart for Bitcoin. I'm not a maxi, so don't be offended if you are, but I am very much in support of Bitcoin. I believe it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's our last hope. It's one, or at least our only hope at this point for a more fair economic playing ground. And so we're excited to be working with some of the Bitcoin guys out there, and we're glad that they're willing to reach across the aisle because there's still kind of a misunderstanding there between if you're a maxi, which is someone who only believes in Bitcoin, and then everything else is not Bitcoin coin, and or a shit coin. But I don't necessarily believe that. I think there's room for everyone, and then things will have to play out. I mean, we'll see the vulnerabilities in these other blockchains. They're adding central points of failure, and that's where Bitcoin really really shines. Is it's removing central points of failure. Some of the other projects that we're working with is Pirate Chain. Super excited to be working with Pirate Chain. We'll probably do a capture the flag type of game during our summit here sometime soon. So we're looking forward to that. I know you're familiar with Rob from TUSC. We're real excited to continue to work with Rob from Tusk. And shoot, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're passionate about a project that you love or a community that you're a part of, or if you're a developer or a founder or a startup, again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. And please reach out because we're here to support you. We're providing a platform for good people and good projects. And if that sounds like that's you, then we want to hear from you.
I love it. And didn't you say you were also working with, if I'm not mistaken, ULV, University of Las Vegas?
Yeah, yeah, actually, it's so easy to, there's so many things, right? Yeah, so we had a great meeting with the director of the International Institute of Gaming at UNLV, and what they're doing is providing information on the blockchain to casino operators, and they're doing it in an agnostic way, right? So they're not pro blockchain, but they're not anti blockchain. They just want to see where it fits in, and we're excited to be part of that. So we're looking to add to their research paper that will be released hopefully towards the end of April, maybe beginning of May, and we'll have a lot more information on that. We're also working with an officially sanctioned UNLV group, almost officially sanctioned. Looks like they're going to get there, and that's NFTLV. NFT UNLV, those are kind of two of the same groups, and we're excited to be part of that. And of course, we recently established an office. Vegas Crypto Group and Crypto Mindset Reset has an office, so we're here. We're right next to UNLV, so we'll be working closely with them. We're in touch with people from the economics department as well, because they don't communicate. The International Institute of Gaming that's their own department, and then economics is a whole different thing, right? And blockchain touches all of it. So we're working closely with someone who's helping to write curriculum, blockchain curriculum, so people can learn more about that, and we're excited about that. So yeah, a lot of tie-ins there, and we'd love to work closer with the city in ways that are productive in integrating blockchain into what they're doing as well. So we're in touch with different city council members and city hall.
Yeah, and I think also if I remember right, and clearly everyone I'm somewhat involved in this community as well, so I'm teeing things up nicely. But yeah, I think you also had done some outreach to small businesses, right? It's not the most sexy or fun work, but teaching small businesses how to accept crypto. If I'm not mistaken, you and your team were doing some of that type of stuff too, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm really glad you remembered that. There's a lot of value in getting in a little bit ahead of the game, right? Getting your foot in the door, because everybody remembers how big the internet became. In the beginning, not a whole lot of people saw that, and a lot of people were really nervous about it. So, well, I don't want to use the internet. I can't put my credit card on the internet or whatever it is. We're seeing a lot of that similar kind of sentiment with blockchain. And so we're happy to be working with different merchants to teach them more about crypto, how to use crypto, also how to accept crypto in their business. And so we have workshops and things like that available. And we're also working with different companies like Forum Pay and other companies like that. So if you're a merchant out there, even if you're an online merchant and you're listening, definitely reach out to us because we can help.
Yeah, super important stuff. It's it's not just getting people the information, but now getting people help, and that's something super important to us here at ETM. Just putting all this information together. Yeah, I guess before we kind of start to wind down here, yeah, what is your process for building community? Because I know it can be kind of topsy turvy, not really linear or by the book in any way at all. So yeah, how do you build community when things can kind of go in so many different directions? But with that said, it seems like there are some core processes or fundamentals, if you will, that do seem like they are important for building community.
Yeah, great question there. Great question. Number one, I want to reiterate, don't even pay attention to the numbers. You may have 5 attendees at your first meetup. That's actually amazing. I know one time you mentioned it to me, smartest thing I ever heard. Something like I only had like maybe 500 followers on Twitter, but you said, hey, put 500 people in a room together. That's a lot of people, and it really is. So don't be, if you're thinking about hosting a meetup, don't be intimidated about how does it start and how many people are going to show up and how am I going to make it amazing. Just show up. If you show up, other people will show up. You'll work together to make it amazing. And then there's like actual steps that you need to take, but they're not difficult. We actually have a great article on cryptomindsetreset.com. I listed out kind of the 7 steps to hosting a crypto meetup. And real briefly, you want to choose the venue. You want to pick a theme. You can get sponsors, but absolutely optional. You don't need sponsors. Not a critical thing to hosting a meetup. You want to post your meetup. Find places to post your meetup in forums and utilize the sites that are available to you, like meetup.com and Eventbrite. And then share your meetup. Share your meetup with your friends, your family, your community. I mean, the grocery store clerk, the the stalker, the cashier, everyone you talk, tell them all about it. Make it very inviting. I invite everybody I talk, from the CEO to the janitor. They're all important to me. There's no difference there. Everybody can learn and everybody can benefit from coming together. So share your meetup, connect with people, be open, be out there. You'll find out that there's more that connects us than divides us, and you'll find out that people are. It's not as intimidating as a thing as you may think. So just kind of be out there, and of course after the meetup, stay in touch with people. Stay in touch with them. These are people that love that just love the community, and so you bring that together. So definitely you want to follow up with people that you meet at the meetup. Don't be afraid to share your phone number or share an email or open a Telegram room or a Discord or something that's good, Mastodon or Keybase or something where the community can kind of gather even after the meetup, and then survey the meetup. Talk to them. Hey, what would you like? Would you like for us to cover certain topics, or is there a certain place, a venue? Because you can make a win-win-win out of almost anything. It's out there, and that's what I look for. So that way, maybe as an organizer, we get a win. As an attendee, you get a win. And then, of course, the venue gets a win because they're selling an extra 2 pizzas or they're selling an extra few drinks or whatever it is. And so it's a win-win-win for everyone. And this is where I was. I just didn't know where I fit in. So if you don't know where you fit in, but you love crypto or you have a great project, you want to find some support for it, start with meetups. Start with meetups. Go for it. You can get more information at Crypto Mindset Reset. Of course, I want to help you. If you're listening today, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing all that. That's a great rundown. And I kind of wanted to point out like an event can be in so many different venues these days. I mean, you were talking about metaverse, you're talking about in person. It could be online, like your virtual summits are sort of like I'm there, but I'm at my place and you're basically it's like a hybrid type deal. So I also wanted to just open it up. Like your template you shared there could be applied to so many venues. And now it's getting kind of tripped out because it's like metaverse and Zoom and all these different social media communities. And I'm sure people like Float and stuff are going to roll out what we're used to seeing in like the big tech sort of platforms. So, I would just give everyone, hey, be a little patient. Crypto's still, again, we're in the 90s. Like, it's kind of neat. You brought up the PGP thing, because it's like we're there. We're in the 90s of equivalent with crypto users, and you can look up a chart to see it's basically based on the equivalent number of internet users. So it is funny, all these stuff. So I will say that community is, first off, a great contribution to everybody. So thanks for what you do, by the way. And two, it's just like, it's kind of like running nodes. Like, you're running a little Tor or a torrenting node, or back in the day, right? You were talking about, freaking and stuff like wares, and geez, I remember IRC. Are
Yep.
you kidding me right now? Like, you want to seed the
best.
files, and you want to give too, or yeah, you can leech and just download everything and roll out and never give anything. But that was a community. That's sort of that OG time you were talking about, where people were thanklessly running all kinds of computers, and stuff was probably way more expensive, but people did it, and that was a community too. And we don't know who those people are, as you said, standing on the shoulders of giants. So yeah, man, it can be in all venues.
Yep.
I think that's a good thing. If you're a little more not as people oriented, you could get involved in these node sides, or like Quartal, or if like yourself, willing to sort of get out there and get in front of people, absolutely do that. And also, you've got online as sort of an in-between of both of those things, right? So I think there's plenty of options. And I think, like you said, if people have an inkling, they should totally jump on that. Yeah, I guess any other insights or thoughts that are on your mind that I haven't asked you about, you wanted to share?
Wow, we did cover a lot of ground. We did cover a lot of ground. There's still more to cover. There always will be. Uh, but no, I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good. Go to cryptomindsetreset.com, guys. Check out the resources we have there. One there is titled "How to Use Crypto to Better Your Life," and this is our goal. This is really what we're trying to do: give you actionable steps that can help better your life, your family, your community, your friends, everyone around you. And you'd be surprised how well that works.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't ask you too much about Crypto Monday. I definitely need to have them on, but I meant to mention, look at that network effect they have. They're in all these cities and countries, and I think that's super powerful, and it kind of shows, what you can become. And I'm sure they're super open, and that's probably one reason why they get that sort of growth. So I think being like
Yeah.
global minded and open, and I definitely want to learn more about how they grew that. But I think anything we do in our own small way or big is awesome, and it does matter, it does contribute. And you and I always talk about like the long tail of like creating content. Like, one thing we love to do is, that's another little hack, is like write about the fact that you did an event, because in 3 years someone might find that breadcrumb, and hey, that's your social time and equity you put in. And like you said, it might not directly lead to like, oh, I'm making a lot of money off this, but you definitely get this like social currency or reputation. And I would argue, as time goes on, money might not matter as much or at all, because we have this new currency and this new way of doing things. And again, it's kind of late in the episode to open up that thread, but I think it's important, right? We're building something new. It's something different, and the culture around it's different. I think that's a good way to kind of close up what we're all building. So yeah, man, thank you for coming on, sharing your knowledge and what you're building. So we'll definitely, not the last we're going to hear from you or your events, for sure, because we're obviously a supporter, and covering stuff you do, and you're obviously feeding me resources like people and stuff. So we're going to certainly be covering some of the folks that you bring to the table. So yeah, I think it's cool once you get in the trenches and find your groove, because it'll just open up. And what's funny is you don't necessarily have to do anything. I mean, I'm not saying you can just sit around and do nothing, but you don't have to do like some big thing, right? I think that's kind of what you were saying in the beginning, was like everyone putting in a little bit makes quite a lot, and it's also not very hard, right? Like, it's a lighter load carry. So I think you brought some great points here, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Before we let your listeners go, I definitely want to let them know that I'm here in Vegas. If you didn't realize, if I didn't mention, and listen, they're coming out to Vegas. You're coming. One of your listeners is planning a trip to Vegas right now, I bet. And if they're not, they will. And so when you're coming out to Vegas, look us up, vegascryptogroup.com. We'd love to have you out at one of our meetups or one of our events, one of our workshops, whatever we're doing. And hey, if you can't make it to Vegas, then we have our virtual summit, Crypto Mindset Reset. So I hope that everyone out there listening gets a chance to check that out. And I just want to reiterate, Vegas Crypto Group, we're facilitating a friendly and knowledgeable meetup group. So I want to invite everybody to come out and enjoy that what we put together out here.
Yeah, and I think, like you're saying, these venues are everywhere. So like digitally, right? So
Yep.
everyone should feel free to jump in, join the community. You also have a Discord that you've been running for years and years, even before the IRL meetups. So yeah, man, really great stuff. Lots of good resources for people to plug in. And yeah, no, thanks again. I think, was there any other handles, social media handles you wanted to share? I know obviously Crypto Mindset Reset and VegasCryptoGroup.com.
That's right. That's right. You'll be able to find us at those. Just search those on traditional social media. Search it on Web3 social media. We have a presence on Lens. We have a presence on Float, and we're increasing our Web3 presence. And I think there's a lot that we can give there, a lot we can do, and a lot we can add. And I want, if you're out there listening, I want you to be a part of it. So I really hope they join us. And of course, if you wanted to reach out to me personally, just do it. Mike at VegasCryptoGroup.com. Mike at VegasCryptoGroup.com.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on, and see everyone in one of these metaverses.
That's right.
This is Mr. Mike Wilson.